What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome back to episode number 134 of Towel or Town. It's part to Prem. That was in the wrong order, but we're just going to go with it today. We had a day off yesterday, and well, I've already forgotten my intro. It's a good start. We are in January. Today we're going to be taking on Tottenham in the league. A big game for us, made bigger by the fact that we're in second. When I left things last time, things were looking pretty rosy, albeit, we had just lost the first game of the season. It had to happen eventually. I wasn't really expecting an unbeaten run. But when you look across the last months of football, it's slipped away. And unfortunately for us, Manchester City, they're very blooming good. So let's talk about these results. The good news is in the EFL Cup, we are going very, very strong. We won 3-1 against Preston there, which was a superb little result. We then had a game against Chelsea. It was our first game in the league off the back of the Norwich game. I was hoping we would bounce back with a win. We didn't. Spoilers. Their first goal, a little bit unfortunate. Morgan made a superb initial stop, but eventually it found its way goalwards. Owona then scored a second goal for them in the second half, just before the hour mark. And at 2 goals down, we had to go a little more attacking, have a little roll of the dice. And actually, we got a couple of really nice goals in this game. The Dylan Turnbull one, not a classic, I suppose, really. Just our standard, get it into the box, let Dylan get his head on it. And, put his noggin on it. He did. It ended up in the back of the net. And then Shvetsov with a really tidy finish, actually. This was a really nice goal. You get goals that happen in Football Manager where you kind of think to yourself, not seen one like that before. Kind of got that vibe from the Shvetsov goal. And at 2-2, having fought back, you may have thought the game was ours for the taking. It was not. Owona grabbed a second goal for himself. 3-2 it finished. A rebound. Morgan did absolutely everything he could. It was not enough. And 2 defeats in a row. Our first defeat at home all year. That knocked the wind out of me a little. That was the point where I started to think, oh no. Anyway, the good news is we actually bounced back fairly well. We had just over a week's rest. We went into a game against Tottenham away from home. Of course, Tottenham, the team we are playing today. And we managed to dispatch of them 3-0. And it was courtesy of a slightly unusual player, I suppose. Mateus Aurelio, the right back. I don't know what he'd been doing during the week. I guess he'd just been watching highlights of Pele on YouTube or something, trying to get some Brazilian inspiration. 2 incredible goals for the right back. His second was probably the pick of the bunch. They came as a quick fire double before half-time. Late on in the game, Jarno Leskinen grabbed a goal, courtesy of an Aurelio assist, no less. And a great little win and a great way to bounce back. Aurelio, the standout performer in this game. He has been top draw, the right back. This season, he has just really come out of his shell. You can see here in the Champions League, 4 assists in 4 games. In the league, 6 assists and 3 goals. And I think the average rating really speaks for itself. When you compare his performances this season to last season, you can kind of see the importance here of just remaining a little bit patient sometimes. Sometimes you've just got to give a really good quality player a little bit of time to, find his feet. And I feel like Mateus now, he's done that. And, that Tottenham performance kind of illustrated it. Anyway, we then beat Wolverhampton Wanderers 2-1. We came back from behind in this game. Andre missed a penalty late on, but great to get a second win in the row. And then we had the EFL semi-final. Now, I did weigh up coming back to live on this, but ultimately we were drawn against Championship opposition in Middlesbrough, so I backed us to get the win. And, get the win we most certainly did. You can see it finished 2-0 here. Shvetsov with both of the goals to continue his fine goal-scoring run. All in all, a very good performance, and I feel pretty good going into the second leg at home that we will be in the final. It's actually worth noting West Brom, who are obviously the lesser of the 2 teams between West Brom and Arsenal, won in the first leg of their fixture. So, I would love West Brom to win it so that we get them in the final. I don't really like Arsenal, even if we have already annihilated them once this season in a live com. I will quite happily take the path of least resistance after our last couple of cup finals. We've not had a great deal of luck when it's come to them. Anyway, we then returned back to the Premier League, and in our most recent 2 Premier League games, we're not doing very well. We lost here against Everton in the first game. It was just one of those games with a couple of weird goals, to be honest. Markowski scored an own goal. It was a bit of a mad scramble at the back. I'm not sure if he can really take all the blame. Rubio then grabbed another goal for them in the 20th minute. And it was just a scrappy goal where they kind of just found their way through. And it was 3 not long after. And at 3-0, we were in a little bit of trouble. Worth noting that for this game, we were having a little bit of an injury crisis, which I will talk about in a little bit more detail. So we had an unlikely candidate up top for us. He grabbed a goal. It was Guy Ford, 16 years old, signed for £15 million from Nottingham Forest, you may remember. Not a small amount of money. But due to a crazy, crazy injury crisis, he found himself on the front line and he got a goal for us. He also scored in the FA Cup not long after. Let's take a quick look at that, shall we? You can see we beat Ipswich Town 4-1 and then Luton 4-1. A nice variety of goal scorers on show before our most recent game against Watford. A 0-0 draw at Vicarage Road. That is not a good result. That is not good. Not good. Let's have a look at the league table. So, this is how things look right now. Now, unfortunately for us, Manchester City have just beaten Manchester United in the early kickoff. So, we know that a win here would take us above Manchester City, but they will have a game in hand. I talked about Man City's recent form. Let's just have a look at how bonkers they've been recently. I mean, look at that. Look at that. They have conceded in 4 games in the last 3 months. That's insane. They're very good, as it turns out. Even though they've got that older squad that we already talked about last episode, they are still very, very good. And unfortunately for us, they're not slipping up right now. So there is a challenge laid ahead of us, it feels like, in order to try and win the Premier League here. Today we are taking on Tottenham, who languished down in 11th, which is pretty shocking. Their media prediction was 8th. You can see they've had an awful couple of months. So this should be a game that we are winning. We beat them 3-0 already. I'm feeling relatively confident. Of course, with it being January, you'd be right to assume that the transfer window has opened, and we have been a little bit busy, not just with signings in, though. Yes, we've made a couple of sales, and one's a little bit big. We should talk about this one, shouldn't we? Palazzolo, I have elected to sell to Aston Villa. Of course, Aston Villa, owned by a sugar daddy, relegated to the Championship last year. They came in with a £52 million bid. For a player who I have given a few chances to this year, hasn't really wowed me. I couldn't reject £52 million. You know, if it's a backup player, I'm always going to accept that kind of money. He joined us, you may remember, a year and a half ago for £14 million. So a massive amount of money made in terms of profit off that sale. For a player who's been a backup for the entirety of his time at the club, it felt like a pretty smart piece of business. Another big sale we made was Herman, who was a regen who came from our academy. You can take a look at him here. Like, he's not a bad player by any means, but he only plays naturally left mid, which is not a position that we use. And Wolverhampton Wanderers came and offered me £8 million plus 50% of any profit. I mean, I'm absolutely going to take that for Herman. I think he's okay, I suppose, but we've got some very, very good players who are joining us and who have joined us actually over the course of, the last month. You can see here a load of reinforcements, a load of exciting young players for the future. Got to pick out a few of the more expensive ones. Pauletti, we talked about him before. He's a good little right back. Unfortunately, is going to need a work permit, so expect to see him going out on loan. Elsewhere, Jamdri Vera. I really like the look of this guy. A Venezuelan forward. We've not that's what it's Ecuador. Ecuador. What does the Venezuela flag look like? I mean, I'm sorry to my South American viewers. Why have I assumed it's Venezuela? Let's have a look. Does it look that similar? No. Oh, it's the same colours, isn't it? Forgive me. I can only really ask for forgiveness. He's quite good. He's gone on loan to Real Oviedo. He's 18 years old. He's capped for the Ecuador national team. I quite like the look of him, Mr. Vera. I think he's very, very good. It doesn't work, does it? It doesn't work. Anyway, a couple of centre-backs we've signed from South America as well. Carlos Balbi, 19 years old. He's gone on loan to Real Oviedo as well, in need of a work permit. They are currently battling against relegation from La Liga. They are rock bottom. We'll see if the players that we've lent them can do them a favour and hopefully save them from the drop, although it does feel a little unlikely. And also this guy, who I'm just going to refer to as Caesar, because I think it's easier. That's rhymed unintentionally. He's very good. 18 years old. You can see he plays centre-back. Not the tallest, not the best jumping, not bad heading, but incredible ball-playing defender. We've signed him for a grand total of 1.8 million. Nice have immediately taken him on loan to be a regular starter for them at centre-back. I just feel like it's some smart business, and I feel like he is very exciting, and you may have caught it already. He's listed as our hot prospect. Could we about to be unearthing another gem of a cheap centre-back? I really want to believe so. Anyway, you'll notice here a load of other players, a lot of Scandinavian players actually joining us amongst the South Americans. We will keep tabs on those as they start to pop up in the first team. I'm sure we'll draw attention more to some of them. Just a few players worth mentioning, I guess. One of them, ironically, not Scandinavian. Zvonko Ivanovic. Ivan. Just do it, Jack. Just make it easier for yourself. Save us all a bit of pain. Here we have Ivan. Serbian centre attacking mid. I think he looks pretty good as far as playmakers go. One for the future, lots of potential. Very, very excited about him. In terms of other players who have joined us, we've got Simunic, who has joined us. He is a Norwegian international, aged 18. Looks very, very talented. You can see here, just a ready-made playmaker, really. What are we training him as? Mazzala on attack. What was I thinking? To be fair, Mazzala on attack could be quite good for him, but I've changed my mind, folks. Sometimes this happens. This is, what's it called? Coders, programmers. They have this thing. I work for a game studio, so I see this a lot. A lot of programmers have like a little plush or something on their desk. And when they have an issue in their code, they'll, you might not spot it looking at it. So what you do is you sit and you talk to the plush as if like you're basically explaining the code for the first time to them. And sometimes it helps you to notice mistakes. Sometimes that happens in these episodes. Sometimes, it takes me to sit down and formulate sentences about my decision making to realise where my mistakes lie. But yeah, there's a load of very, very exciting players here. I guess one player definitely worth mentioning is Matteo Legal, because we agreed to sign this guy when he was 16 years old for £13.5 million. It was undoubtedly a risk, I'll be honest. He's not really developed a great deal since we agreed to sign him, but you know what? He's 18 years old. He looks absolutely superb still. He's going to be playing regular first-team football in the top flight of Spain, and yeah, he's 18. He's 18 for crying out loud, and his value is £12 million. So if I wanted to sell him tomorrow, could probably make a profit off him as well, which is, I guess, the main thing. But yeah, our youth team is starting to look quite stacked. I say that like it wasn't looking stacked before, but yeah, the academy is very much in full swing, it feels like, at this point. I'm feeling pretty optimistic for the future. And I feel like you're going to be expecting some pretty special things from our youth team, to be honest, in the coming years. One thing I do actually like to look at is this, where it says very strong squad, very strong. Just makes me excited, really. Worth noting, we have got our youth intake coming through. Not a golden generation for once, which is a bit of a shame, but apparently there's a few good players to keep an eye out for. So, yeah, we'll have to see what becomes of it. We've had some pretty good youth intakes over the years here at Towlaw, so I'm cautiously optimistic. I did talk about the striking conundrum, and it's something that I've talked about a few times this year, is the fact we've never really had an injury crisis. We had an injury crisis this year, everyone. It happened finally. We have had Norman out with a sports hernia, which was a 5-week injury. We had, as you can see here, Turnbull out with a cold, so that wasn't for too long. Shvetsov obviously fractured his wrist last episode, and unfortunately, I can't now see the injury here. But what you need to know is Palazzolo also got injured because he's been sold. I guess it's just been removed from the list. We had a situation where our second, third and fourth choice strikers were all injured. So Guy Ford was the man to come in. I've already talked about him. He's actually done pretty well so far. So yeah, well done, Guy. He stepped up in the face of adversity. And with Norman still coming back from injury, although actually he probably can play now, I'm going to keep Ford on the bench. I've developed a soft spot for him. What can I say? Worth noting, by the way, with the injury situation we've had in the striking position, a very interesting scenario has emerged. Firstly, Manchester United did bid for Shvetsov, and I told them to bugger off at £73 million. But you'll notice here that Shvetsov is set to become a record appearance maker, which is quite impressive. He's got 217 appearances. Do you know who else has got 217 appearances? Oh, actually, he's got 216 now because I made him sit out a game. Dylan Turnbull is one league appearance behind Shvetsov. They are both within, 2 or 3 games of the record at the same time, which really is a tribute to how much Shvetsov and Turnbull have just grown up together at Towlaw. The fact they've almost played the identical number of league games as a striking pair. I absolutely love it. I mean, it makes it kind of interesting directly comparing them. You can see Shvetsov 154 goals, 55 assists. What's Dylan saying? Dylan, what are you saying, my friend? What are you saying? 154 goals, was it? Only 100 and only 36. Shocking. But yeah, either way, it's really cool to see that they are literally neck and neck going for the record. It looks like Shvetsov will just pip him to the post, unfortunately. But anyway, that's a pretty comprehensive update to what you've missed over the last month. It's been pretty busy in terms of signing lots of new youngsters. Useless I have also loaned out. That was just a case of I got a pretty good loan offer from Saint Etienne. Want to give him really regular first team football. I feel like he's going to benefit from that. It's actually been really interesting to see the number of top flight teams from major European nations wanting our players on loan. I feel like we're starting to build up a little bit of a reputation across Europe for our youngsters and the fact they're pretty good loanees. Will be interesting to see if that is something that just continues for years to come at this point. Anyway, before we get into today's episode, one other thing just worth mentioning. Obviously, it's January time, so I've been hunting out players with contracts expiring. Just think I've not really acknowledged, we have only Guy Ford has a contract expiring in the next 3 years. It's crazy. We've got all of our best players right now locked on deals for at least the next 3.5 years. We are set. We are dancing. I kind of look across this team now, and I don't want to say I sit here and I feel like, yeah, we're sorted now, because that feels a bit kind of resting on my laurels. But with the likes of Makovsky looking like he's going to be displacing OJ come the end of the year, and just so many other hot young prospects up and coming, I really feel like we've got such a well-built squad at this point. The squad building, actually, over the last few years, is probably some of the best squad building I've done in a recent Football Manager save, which might sound really big-headed to say, but I am usually pretty critical of myself. But I do feel like when you look at, some of our recruitment, yes, there's been some players we've spent big money on, but we've been able to justify that big spending because of some of the sales we've had. I know someone is going to look at OJ at 46 million and, aggressively shout at me, he's rubbish. Why? That's not good business. Look, we sold Rossano Cini for £30 million to Birmingham, a player who was on loan at Sassuolo last year, I don't know. Maybe that's wrong. I mean, you guys can let me know what you think, but I do, usually I wouldn't say it, but I genuinely do think we've been just absolutely insane in terms of, the transfer business that we've done, and the fact that, for the most part, it's worked out pretty well. I think actually Wrote, I should just give him a nickname, is the one player who you would say maybe hasn't worked out so far at 67 million, and I guess Norman, ironically, but we've not really needed them to work out at the same time. Of course, Wrote's had an injury, and then Norman's been injured, and just Shvetsov and Turnbull have just been doing their thing. I want to believe that in spending as much as we did on Norman as a striker, it kind of, was the boot up the arse of Turnbull that he needed to start performing. That pressure of knowing that his spot in this first team probably wasn't just guaranteed has inspired him on to greater things. But anyway, in the early stages of this game, you can see 12 minutes gone, it's been pretty even in terms of, the fact the scoreline's 0-0, but actually we've had a lot more chances, but they've had more possession, and while they're on the attack here, we need to defend this well, and we will. Matasevic to get it clear to Shvetsov. It's a 2-on-2 at the back. That is a risky game that Tottenham are choosing to play. Turnbull looked offside. Was he offside? He was offside. Okay, I was about to say, that looked offside to me at first viewing. That's why I wasn't too annoyed when he completely buggered up the actual chance to score. But, I don't know, 25 minutes gone here. Yes, we've been the better team in terms of just chances, but we're not having as much of the ball as I would like, and we've not got the goal yet. Having beaten Tottenham 3-0 previously, and with them struggling in the league, you would expect us to win this here, and while we might have a chance here through Mateus Aurelio, the right-back, I mean, there you go, he's doing his thing again. This is the player I thought we'd signed last year when we splashed the big cash and, kind of completely broke our wage budget by offering him almost £100,000 a week. This is the player I thought we'd signed. He took the throw in there. That's worth acknowledging. He took the throw in and then he just dances through the defence, finds himself through, tucks it into the bottom corner. Mr. Aurelio, take a bow. Take a bow. He could be up there, and this might seem mental, he could be up there for player of the season. I know that Shvetsov, who's averaging almost a goal a game, is now kind of a little unhappy as Dylan Turnbull tucks away a header to make it 2 before half-time. But genuinely, Mateus Aurelio, he's definitely got the most improved kind of award half attached to him right now. We've kind of given him half the rosé for most improved player. Will he be able to get the second half of it in the second half of the season? I suppose we'll find out. But 2-0, well, I was about to say 2-0, I think it's going to be at the break, but hold the phone. Hold the phone. Put the phone on hold. There could be more to come here, and well, it could be a goal for Tottenham. We may need to do some defending here. Abraham whips it in. It's an awful clearance, but Mateus Aurelio's there. And if I know Mateus, he's going to pick out the smart pass. He gives it to Andre, gives it to Shvetsov. Lovely touchdown. Can he finish it? No, he can't. And, well, I was kind of expecting him to score there, I'll be honest with you. That's Shvetsov's kind of bread and butter, scoring from those kind of situations. I'm going to get shouty and tell the players I'm not happy at the break, because it should probably be a few more, and we've not had enough of possession for me to be happy. I want to dominate games. They've brought on Karamoko Dembele. I'm curious, how good is Karamoko Dembele? He's pretty good, isn't he, the 30-year-old? Only 2 caps for England. I'm now looking at him thinking, should I have called him up for England at some point? Of course, starts at Chelsea in-game. They've got a set piece here. Goes to Gleed, who is one of our England internationals, Gleed. A player who I actually gave his England debut to. He's only in his early 20s. A good little centre mid. We've got to be wary of him. Dembele fresh on off the bench on the left-hand side for them. Tottenham working the ball around here, but you can see we are pressing them further and further away from our goal, and well, they managed to get a pass away to Turner, who's another England international. Apparently Tottenham have all the England internationals. Rotes, though, deals with it well, and he lumps it forward to Shvetsov to nod down to Turnbull. Andy Eric's in the middle if he needs him. Turnbull, though, goes on his own, and a turn of pace, and I think a bit of a dodgy back pass, allows Dylan Turnbull to get his 20th of the season. Lovely, lovely goal. Dylan Turnbull could have very easily just given up there, could have stopped running. But with his reasonable work rate and his blistering pace, he's managed to just sneak in there and tuck it in at the near post. And while Tottenham, the masters of their own downfall. And you know what? I'm feeling so good about things. We're going to bring in Volta and we're going to bring in Mr. Guy Ford for Shvetsov. Let's see what Mr. Ford can do in his live commentary debut. No pressure. No pressure, Fordy. What can you do? Apparently Turner's getting too much space. Well, we'll close him down. But, well, 3-0 we beat them away from home, and it looks like it could be another 3-0 win. I wouldn't mind a few more goals, though. It would be nice if Ford got a goal on his live commentary debut. Of course, he's only 16 years old, so I'm not overly expecting anything, but just giving him first-team football to set up Turnbull like that feels like the right thing to do. Is that his hat-trick? It is, and it's a perfect hat-trick. One with his head, one with his left foot, one with his right foot as well. And lovely to see Ford get the assist. He's not a particularly tall player, but a nice little header there. And what a finish by Turnbull on his left peg, to be fair. Keeper had absolutely no chance. More results like this needed. We can't be drawing against the likes of Watford. We can't be losing against Norwich City. The good news is that with this result, we do go back top of the league. The bad news, Man City do have a game in hand, so we can't really get too ahead of ourselves, I suppose. Anyway, you may have already caught it, but it is worth acknowledging the fact that we have had the Champions League group stage draw. I know it's very exciting. Oh, but Bolton have sacked their manager. Do we go for the Bolton job, everyone? 19th of the Vanarama National League. No, I'm gonna say no. Look at that graph. Can we compare it with ourselves? Compare with... Oh, you can only compare it to teams in their division. I wanted to compare our graph to Bolton's graph to see the difference of fortunes. Because, of course, there was a point around here where we passed paths, I guess. We crossed over one another. But yeah, if anyone was wondering what's happening with Bolton, that's where they are. But yeah, just to go back to the Champions League point, which is probably a bit more significant than where Bolton are. First round knockout stage is going to be against Celtic. We've got that game coming up in about a month's time. Of course, the first and second legs are usually kind of split out. You can see here they are indeed for the Champions League. We'll probably be coming back for the first leg. We may pair it up with the game against Chelsea. Now, of course, Chelsea beat us between, the last episode and this episode. The reason I didn't live com that game is because I knew we were going to be playing them a little bit later. You can see they currently trail us by 6 points, but they've got 2 games in hand themselves. So we have got to be wary of Chelsea. They won the Champions League last year. They won the Premier League last year. So, yeah, I think a double header of Chelsea and Celtic to follow. We have then got Celtics, obviously, with the second leg. But we have also potentially got an EFL Cup final that's going to be slotted somewhere in here. So the next couple of episodes are a little bit in flux. But there is one certainty. It's not deaths and taxes. It's the fact that we'll be coming back for Chelsea and Celtic. I hope to see you guys next episode. It's going to be a big one. I'm a little bit scared for it. I'm going to need your support. And, well, I will see you guys then. It is me, Jack, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.